In this lesson, we'll get into the basics of how to mask in Photoshop. So we're going to start out by just selecting an area that we're going to fill with a box just to help you understand this concept. We're going to fill it with a color that was tested from the kitten, and we're going to put it on a new layer. Now, by default, and I'm going to deselect that real quick, by default, most students learning Photoshop learn the eraser really quickly, and I'll just discuss this so that we understand why we do not want to use the eraser. The eraser is considered a destructive tool. Okay, so what happens is it erases, and I can basically take this rectangle and overlap it on top of my photo, and you can see the pixels underneath it. Well, as great as that sounds, it is considered a destructive method for editing your photo. Okay, so if we are designing and we're using masks, we're going to be able to, retrieve any of this information and edit it easily without having to recreate work. So if I needed to get these pixels back, my only way that I could do that is go to my history panel, and then I would go back a certain number of steps. So you could essentially potentially lose work going that method, and if you ever saved your file, you would never be able to get those pixels back if they are erased. So we do want to talk about masking because the concept of being able to hide and reveal parts of your image is going to be really critical as you create things in Photoshop. So first of all, to create a mask, when you have the layer selected, you're going to go to the bottom of your layers panel, and right here's the option for layer mask. It looks like a rectangle with a circle in it. When you hover over top of it, it says add layer mask, and it adds a box to your layer, and by default it looks like nothing at all happens. Now, the way this works is masks work in grayscale, and what that means is I can paint on this mask with either a paintbrush, a paint bucket, or a gradient tool, and when I do, it will either hide or reveal parts of the image. Okay, so right now this box that I've created is revealed because everything inside of this mask is white. Okay, so if I wanted to hide parts of this box, when this is selected, I'm going to basically activate my paintbrush, really any of your painting tools, and I can start painting inside of the mask. Now if you notice inside this mask here, I now have little black streaks that I have painted, and this will act a lot like an eraser where when I want to overlap this image, it does still show through. Okay, so what's wonderful about this is with masks, at any given point, you can bring this information back. So if I switch my foreground and background color by hitting X, and I get my paintbrush back, I can basically paint this back, and it all comes back. Okay, so these pixels that are on this layer are always going to stay there as long as you don't erase them. So this is considered non-destructive, and it allows you at any point the flexibility to bring back pixels that you don't want gone forever. Okay, so masking is always going to be preferred over using an eraser tool, and it will allow you a lot more flexibility in using the various ways that we can paint and create things in Photoshop. So again, if we were to take this and move it over top of the kitten and start painting on this mask, the key thing that I want to point out to you is whatever is highlighted in your layers panel is what you're going to work on. So if I have this highlighted and I started to paint right now, it would actually paint on the layer. Now if I undo that and I select this mask, and now I paint again, and this time I'm going to paint with black, and then I just paint away, it shows parts of the cat underneath. And then if I want to bring it back, I just switch my foreground and background color. So again, notice that that foreground color is now white, and then I just paint it back. Okay. I'll bring all of this back and reveal it. Sometimes it helps to make the brush a lot larger. And you should see that little preview here that shows you what is displaying, and whatever is white is going to keep that current layer. Okay, and I do see some extra black pieces that I may not necessarily want, so I'll just go ahead and paint all of those even though they're not really visible. Now you may notice also that there is a link right here, and we'll get into this in a lot more detail in other lessons, but this link allows you to disconnect the layer and the mask itself. So if I have it linked and I try to take the move tool and move this, my mask and my layer go wherever they're going to go together. Now if I decide that I would like just my layer mask to move, then it starts to move, and you can see right now I've got just a, and I'll add just a little bit more so you can see. Just go ahead and add another streak to this. So now if I try to move this layer mask, it's going to move wherever I move it. Okay, and then if I want just this part right here, the layer, to move, then it will move wherever I move it, but the mask stays still. So again, anytime you want to be able to move them together, you want to keep them linked. It's very easy to forget to link them back if you unlink them. So you do want to pay attention to that. And then again, if you do need to mask further, again, it's just the black and white color. So white will bring back our original layer, and then black would hide it. So if I switch back to black, it brings it back. So hopefully that helps you out. It's going to give you a lot more creative freedom, and we will be able to do a lot more with masking. We'll get into some more intermediate skills and some things that'll help you out further as you learn masking in Photoshop.